Today I want to cover the topic of how Thai gym contracts work, the percentages that the gym takes, what the fighter gets in exchange for it, and at the end we're going to also discuss how this leads to a lot of systematic inequality and a lot of people just staying in poverty despite generations and generations of being fighters. So let's start with the fact that Thai fighters, they're usually scouted out. It's not like people just pick a random Thai person who says that they're a fighter, right? And we're talking about Muay Thai camps who say that they're a fighter and then they just pick them up and get them to the gym and then they just start living at the gym. That's rarely how it works. The smaller gyms will try to scout out fighters from the countryside. So let's say the gyms in Bangkok, they're more central to the stadiums. So what will happen is they will send trainers, or maybe the gym owner themselves will keep an eye on the really local fight scene and try to reach out to some up and coming fighters from the countryside and sign them to the gym in Bangkok. And in exchange for the signage, they'll be promised opportunities that they couldn't get while in the countryside. And usually with the opportunities also like better training facilities, more consistent training, things like that. We're going to get into what else they're going to get out of it soon. The bigger gyms that have more money, so if you think of gyms like Peindi, Fairtex, and PK Senchai, they rarely do this because they're able to buy fighters' contracts at a much higher price. So they can afford to reach out to a fighter who's already established and just buy their contract. But with the smaller gyms in Bangkok, they don't have a big budget. So the more famous or the fighter is, the more expensive their contract is going to be. And the contracts could go anywhere from like, so for the more famous fighters, it can go anywhere from like 1 million baht to like 2 million baht or even over that. Whereas the like fighters that are just up and coming, their contracts can be bought for as little as 5,000 baht, 10,000 baht, 50,000 baht, things like that. So what happens during the contract signing? During the contract signing, in the contract, it says how long the fighter is signed for. So it could be a year. It's usually not a year though, because they want a bigger commitment from the fighter. And also if the gym is going to commit in the fighter, they want to see results, long-term results, and not just within a year. But you can sign for a year. Some fighters, they sign for 7 years, 10 years, but it's usually not more than that. The gym is entitled to up to 50% of whatever the fighter's fight purses are. So for example, if a fighter makes $1,000 off their fight purse, so 1,000 US dollars, or about 30,000 baht, the gym is entitled up to $500. You're probably thinking, wow, 50%, that's a lot. So in exchange for the percentage that the gym is going to take, what does the fighter get in return? The fighter gets everything covered. They got a place to live. They don't have to worry about a place to live. They don't have to pay rent. They got food. The gym is going to feed them all their meals. And they have the training. And it's usually consistent training. So the fighter doesn't have any expenses come out of pocket. The gym organizes the fights for them, and in return, the gym takes a big percentage of money. Not all gyms will take the full 50%. Some gyms will only take 30 or 40%, but then there are some gyms that will take 50% because that is what they're entitled up to. It can be said in a contract, but it's usually not, and sometimes the gym just takes the whatever percentage it is that is up to 50%. Okay. So moving on, because the gyms have an initial investment with the contracts, they have to try to make that money back on the investment off what they originally paid for the fighter, plus some. Otherwise, it's not an investment, right? So they need to make it off the fight purses. So if they buy a fighter for, let's say, 1 million baht, right? And I mean buy the contracts when I say buy the fighter. If they buy the fighter 1 million baht and the fighter per fight makes, let's say, 1 million baht, and they fight 2 times just during the contract, then the gym breaks even. So a fighter that makes 1 million baht is probably not only going to cost $1 million for their contract, but just so you kind of understand how it works. So therefore, they want to look for high-paying fighters. Fighters that have been shown to be superstars or have had already make a lot of money have a high price tag on their contracts. And fighters that have no history or currently earn very little money have a very low price tag on their contracts. Okay? Got that out of the way? Good. Now, how does this contribute to the systemic inequalities at hand? And here it gets a little bit more complicated. So first, we're going to talk about women fighters. I feel like every time the topic of women fighters deserving equality comes up, there's always a lot of people who will say, oh, but then if they want the same opportunities or same pay, then they need to work for it and deserve it. And the problem is, when you see things that start from this, right? And mind you, a lot of these contracts start being bought when the fighters are kids. Because women have historically been shown to not make as much money because of the limited opportunities available to them, then that goes in a cycle. That goes in a cycle where, okay, this woman fighter makes less money, and then the gym owner doesn't think that they're going to make their money back, and the gym owner would rather invest in men. And that's why you see like how 99.9999% of Muay Thai camps in Thailand are all men, because they are the money makers. But it's not that women can't fight, it's just that they haven't had the same opportunities from the beginning, right? In terms of being seen as a moneymaker. That is changing because of the Muay Thai scene right now, especially with One Championship putting on a spotlight of women fighters and giving them high pays and bonuses and things like that. But it's still, I think, at least another decade or two to go before a bigger chunk of gyms fully integrate women into the gyms, whether as men and women or as all women gyms. All women gyms tend to not really survive or get a lot of recognition because of how little money that they make. Unfortunately, in Thailand, the amount of money that a gym makes is also associated with their amount of respect that they get in the industry. How else does this system contribute to inequality? Having a system like this is a little bit dehumanizing. Obviously, this is also different from gym to gym, but I just have to say, at most gyms that I've been at, that I've dropped to, most of the gym owners will look at each of these fighters not as people, but just as money-making machines. As long as the fighter is making the money or making them as much money as possible, there isn't a whole lot of care or thought put into their health person. So I've seen a lot of fighters not be able to go to the doctor because the gym owner won't pay for a doctor visit, or a lot of fighters who have a lot of joint hip issues and the gym owner won't pay for a physical therapist, things like that. So a lot of these preventative actions, because the gym owner will have to, it's going to deduct from what they're making off the fighter. A lot of the gym owners won't take these preventative care measures into taking care of their fighters. Some will, but a lot won't. It's also not to mention that a lot of the gym owners, right, in order to have that much money to buy contracts to begin with, they probably already come from some sort of money. And most gym owners actually were never fighters themselves. When you're trying to run a gym of high-level professional fighters and run the training and, corner them in a fight, but a person doesn't understand what it's like to be a fighter, or to be exhausted in training, or to overtrain, or to train while you're sick or fight when you're sick, then there's a big lack of empathy. A big lack of empathy that is probably like the biggest hurdle right now that I see in Thailand in terms of what fighters should get as human beings and as people who do physical labor, and the rich gym owners who just capitalize off the money. And it's not to say that the fighters don't also benefit from it, but let's say the fighter's family decides to go with one gym, and then this gym doesn't take care of the fighters, or doesn't give them the opportunities that they were promised, then there goes the fighter's career for however long the contract is, unless someone offers to buy them out, which might not be that often. A fighter's career, their fame, their success is highly independent on not just their skills, but also where they train and also how they are managed. I hope this episode was insightful and it gives you a little bit of insight of what it's like to be a professional Thai fighter. And it's not an easy job, right? I always say that being a professional Thai fighter is like the equivalent of us Westerners going to school. Both of which are things that we had to do when we were kids. So some of us liked it, right? Some of us liked going to school, and some of us hated it and went because it was just what we had to do. And we see the same with Thai fighters. With Thai fighters, some of them like it, some of them hate it. And you can see it in their training attitude as well. You can see that some are very self-motivated and some are just doing just enough to get by. Some of us fail tests and we didn't care. Some of them lose fights and they don't care. So I hope this comparison and the information I gave you gives you some insight on how the Thailand system works with their contracts and their fighters. If you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments or wherever. You can shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer. See you in the next episode.